Okay, recording enabled. Right. So 12.7 is what we were doing in the last class, and I can see that we have only done part of it. Did we complete 12.7 in the last class or not? We did not complete it. Okay. Great. ठीक है. So अभी हम first half of the lesson we will complete 12.7. 12.8 is a similar question, so you can try it on your own. I will provide you with the solution. And the remaining half, we can start with the problems in the control account MCQs, as Hadia has pointed out. हमने वो भी डिस्कस नहीं किया अभी तक, वो भी हम डिस्कस कर लेंगे, लेकिन हम पहले करंट टॉपिक कंप्लीट कर लेते हैं. We did the first three errors. Yes, Alicia, very good. ठीक है. Actually, error number 4 and 5 are the ones where we need a lot of work. The first three errors were relatively simpler, right? तो चलो हम जल्दी से फर्स्ट थ्री एरर्स में मैं एक काम करता ना, मैं एक फ्रेश शीट साथ पे खोल लेता हूँ ताकि हम इनके साथ साथ देखते जाएंगे. ओके, सो द फर्स्ट थ्री एरर्स हैव बीन सॉर्टेड आउट राइट नाउ. Just a second. So first three errors are there. So just go through the first error one by one, 1, 2 and 3, ताकि ज़रा जहन में हम connect भी कर लें सारा कुछ. So take 2 minutes and go through the first three errors. The adjustments are already there. And once you're comfortable with the first three errors, then you give me a green check, and then we start with the fourth. The environment was a bit too noisy, so hopefully the background noise is gone now. So go through the first three errors and the adjustments are right there. So once you're comfortable with that, we will start the fourth one. Give me a green check once you have gone through the first three errors. I'll do the fourth and fifth. Okay, Maheen is ready. Very good. Maheen, let's wait for your friends. Alina is ready. Amal is ready. Iman's ready. And everyone's ready. Alina, Wakas and Fajr. Are we good to go? Alina is good. Okay, good. Let's start with the fourth error. The fourth error is that depreciation on non-current assets was wrongly calculated for at 10% per annum instead of on the net book value instead of 5%. So basically, fourth error means that depreciation has been overcharged. So let's see where the depreciation charges are. So we know depreciation is charged in our income statement as an expense, and we can find it here. This is the wrong charge, the excessive charge here. And then depreciation is eventually subtracted from the asset, and this is where we have the net book value. This is our net book value after the wrong depreciation charge. So we need to fix these two values for error number 4. So how do we do this? Now let's see. इसमें ज़्यादा role mathematical calculations का है, and Iman Badr, you joined back, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. You have time to take the class. अगर आपके पास time नहीं है तो have your parents write an application. Remember, I have to give the attendance to Miss Farhana. तो उसके बाद वो वहाँ पे आपके absent mark हो जाएगी अगर आप आज का नहीं लेते class. But it's okay as long as your parents can send in an application. That attendance that absent won't count. मैंने तो एक्चुअल अटेंडेंस भेजनी होती है ना, फिर स्कूल उसको एडजस्ट कर देता है अगर आप कोई एप्लीकेशन भेज दें उधर तो, राइट? बट इफ यू हैव
No,
टाइम,
no, sir. I have time. I
okay,
have time.
perfect, perfect, perfect. No worries. Mhm. Okay, so now we have depreciation on non-current assets, which was wrongly calculated. So we are doing error number 4 here. So 10% of the book value हमने charge कर दिया, हालांकि the correct charge should have been 5% of the net book value. So we have many different ways of doing this. Mathematically, there are many different ways of dealing with that. The one hint over here is that the wrong depreciation charge is already given over here. We know that this $13,000 represents 10% of the net book value of your assets, right? Or we can also add back this $13,000 to $117,000 to arrive at the original net book value before the error was committed. This must be 117 plus 113 must be $130,000. Or we can also do another way, that we know that whatever the original net book value was, this is error 4 here. Let's say the original net book value was X, and we know that mistakenly हमने 10% of X उसमें से subtract किया, and that gives us the wrong net book value of $117,000, right? So you can make a simple equation like that, and then you can solve it. So x minus 0.1x will give us 0.9x equals $117,000, which tells us that this net book value that you wrongly calculated was actually 90% of the original net book value, which makes sense because 10% depreciation was subtracted before that. So now if we calculate this x, that would be $117,000 divided by 0.9. That comes out to be how much? That should come out to be $130,000, right? Yes, it should be $130,000. Please calculate. Oh, okay. Alicia and Asma has done. So it should come out to be $130,000, and we could have justified this $130,000 original net book value from the question, because we know that the wrong net book value given to us is $117,000 after $13,000 of the depreciation charge. So we could have simply added that back to arrive at this conclusion. But let's say if we were not given that value, we could have made use of this equation here, and we could have calculated the original net book value, right? And based on the original net book value, now we can calculate the correct depreciation charge. The correct depreciation charge should be 5% instead of 10%. So that should be how much? 10% would be 13,000, and 5% would be half of that, 6,500. Thank you, Amal. Thank you, Asma. And thank you, Marine. So we have $6,500. That is the correct depreciation charge. So the correct depreciation charge is $6,500. So now we can make amendments here. So we can get rid of the wrong values here. This is wrong. 13,000 की बजाय यहाँ पे 6,500 होना चाहिए. And this wrong net book value should be replaced as $130,000, the original net book value, minus 6,500. So how much should that be? Instead of $117,000, we should have 130 minus 6,500. How much? 123,500. Thank you, everyone. So we need to replace this for 123,500. So this is error number 4 rectified here. So we should have depreciation of PAN charged 6,500 in the income statement, and our net book value in the balance sheet should be 123,500. So give me a green check if you understand the workings. That's the working here on the right side. Yes, Fajr and Alicia. Alicia. Okay, good. Excellent. Right. Okay, so this was done. And then we have number 5, error number 5. Error number 5 is, okay. Irrecoverable debts, $400, which have not been accounted for. This is the first part of the error. And then the second part, connected part, is that the provision for doubtful debts had been calculated at 5% of the trade receivable. So we have two different issues to deal with. We know from our past experience that bad debts and provision for doubtful debts are two independent values. They show independently in your income statement, and they have two independent effects on the balance sheet as well. So we are going to deal with them one by one. So पहले हम irrecoverable debts को treat कर देते हैं, bad debts. So bad debt expense आपके income statement में होना चाहिए इस section में, but you can see none of these expenses, none of the existing expenses include bad debt. So we'll have to create a fresh expense. So we are going to treat a bad debt expense here. Bad debts, a new expense will be included here at $400. So $400 will be a new expense included in the income statement. And then the provision for doubtful debts, पहले bad debts का second part हमें ठीक करना होगा, because if the bad debt is here as an expense and this has not been accounted for, that means your trade receivables are also wrong. So we will put minus $400 here too. So this is going to be our first part of the rectification. So give me a green check if you understand the inclusion of the bad debts corrected like that. We will include $400 as a fresh expense in the income statement, and we will also subtract the same from our trade receivables. Yes or no? Good. Amal, what about you? Adia, Mehreen, and Amal are stuck. Mehreen, sir, are we going to subtract bad debts from the profit? Yes, bad debts are going to be included in your expenses. Then obviously, yeah, total of the expenses will be subtracted from the profits. जैसे आपने ऊपर income statement बनी हुई है ना, you can see on the left part of the screen, we will include bad debts among the expenses, and that will automatically be subtracted from the profit, obviously. Yes, correct. Excellent. Okay, now comes the troublesome part. The provision for doubtful debts had been calculated at 5% of the trade receivable. So that tells us about our policy. We know consistency principle says that whatever accounting policies we adopt, we implement them consistently. So अगर हमने past में 5% provision trade receivables की charge की हुई है, तो हमें currently भी 5% of provision ही charge करना होगी. लेकिन the problem over here is that this provision for doubtful debts here is based on a wrong value of the trade receivables, right? Because we know our trade receivables have gone through a certain series of adjustments here. So we need to see, first of all, what the correct value of trade receivables is, and then we will see what the correct value of provision for doubtful debts is. And then for the income statement, we will see the provision for doubtful debts, अगर वो increase करती है over the year, तो हम उसको as expense treat करते हैं, और अगर वो decrease करे, तो हम उसको as income treat करते हैं. So we will come to the income statement part later on, but first of all, let's fix the visible elements here. So we will find out our trade receivables correctly first. So this is going to be our fifth error, right? Last error. So our trade receivables correct value, trade receivables corrected value, trade receivables. Thank you, Alicia and Alina. Trade receivables corrected जो value है वो कितनी बनती है, 7,200 is the existing wrong value. We subtract $2,400 for the first error, and then we subtract $400 for the second for the bad debts, and that will give us the corrected value of the trade receivables, which comes out to be $4,400 as Alicia and Alina has calculated here, right? So that's your correct value of the trade receivables. And according to our policy, our provision for doubtful debts should have been 5% of this value, which comes out to be how much? $220. Okay, good. So this is the correct value of the provision for doubtful debts. So basically, we need to get rid of this 360 from here and we need to replace it with $220. This 360 is the previous wrong value and this 220 is the correct value of the provision for doubtful debts. So please give me a green check if you understand this part, this calculation here. Hadia and Fajr, we don't agree? Hadia and Fajr. Okay, good. Now comes the other part, because we know that provision for doubtful debts is not just going to reduce your trade receivables, it will also have an impact on your income statement. And just for a quick revision, we know that provision for doubtful debts, if, let me just make it as compared to, as PPFDD as compared to last year's, if increases, we show that as an expense in the income statement. And if it decreases, we show that as an income in the income statement, right? So that is what we already know from our existing knowledge about the accruals concept and the financial statement that we have done earlier. So if the provision for doubtful debts as compared to the last year, this year, if it shows an increment, then that increment is going to be shown as an expense in the income statement. But if it shows a decrease, so whatever incremental change happened, that incremental change, if shows a decrease, will be treated as an income in the income statement. Now, if we look back at the original information, the provision for doubtful debts has already been included in this list of expenses. But we know that this conclusion that we have included over here was based on a wrong value. So as compared to the last year, जब हमने इस साल की प्रोविजन कंपेयर की तो वो हमें $100 का इंक्रीज शो कर रही थी. So we can connect these dots and we can conclude that from this information, our last year's provision for doubtful debts must have been 360 थी ना इंक्रीज होने के बाद, must have been $260. How? Because wrong value of provision 360 थी जो के 100 के increase होने के बाद थी, right? So we can figure this out. We can figure this conclusion out that 260 must have been last year's provision for doubtful debts. You need to give me a green check over here, because if you don't understand this part, the next part is going to be messy, right? We do understand that last year's provision for doubtful debt must have been $260. And how do we conclude that? Because our current year's wrong value given in the balance sheet is 360, which is after an increase of $100, which is given in the income statement. So we can connect these two values and we can draw this conclusion. Last year must have been $260. Fajr and Madiha? Yes or no? Fajr? Okay, good. So अगर हमारी लास्ट ईयर की प्रोविजन $260 थी और अब हमने करंट ईयर की प्रोविजन, दिस इज द लास्ट ईयर्स प्रोविजन एंड द करंट ईयर्स प्रोविजन that we have just calculated is provision for doubtful debts. We calculated here $220. That is the correct value here. So we can connect this and this. So $220 is our current year's provision, right? So that will lead us to the conclusion that $40 is the incremental difference between the two, which represents a decrease in the provision for doubtful debts. And if that is the case, it should have been included in the books as an income. So give me another green check if we understand the conclusion over here, that provision for doubtful debts, instead of an expense, it should have been treated in our books as an income of $40. This is complicated, but If we divide again a complex problem into stages and deal with one stage at a time, we will be able to sort any problem out. Very good. So now we make the adjustments here. So we have already fixed the uh, balance sheet part here already. It's done. 360 is gone. उसकी जगह 220 replace हो जाएगा. अब हम अपने income statement को ठीक करते हैं. We know that provision for doubtful debts is no more your expense because actually provision for doubtful debts is increasing. So we are going to eliminate this $100 here. Instead, other incomes को हम gross profit में add करते हैं. Add decrease in provision for doubtful debts, and that amount gross profit will be added $40, and that is going to be your income. So we are going to include this section after the gross profit. We know other incomes agar aapke paas ho, so you add those other incomes in your gross profit before you subtract the expenses. So give me final green check. This is how we sort out the fifth error. We understand everything about the error 5. Amal and Matiha. Excellent. Amal? Amal probably is there. Yes, Amal. Okay, great. Sorry. Now, let's make, so we have sorted out all the errors. We have highlighted those errors. जहाँ जहाँ फिगर्स चेंज होने थे वहाँ हमने रेड मार्किंग्स कर दी हैं. सो अब आप जल्दी से पार्ट ए में इनकम स्टेटमेंट रिवाइज बनाएं. जहाँ जहाँ वैल्यूज चेंज होनी है अकॉर्डिंगली चेंज कर दें. एंड बैलेंस शीट शुड बैलेंस. बस एक चीज़ का आपने ख्याल रखना है कि आपने जो भी करेक्टेड वैल्यू ऑफ द नेट प्रॉफिट यहाँ पर आ रही है, ठीक है, दैट करेक्टेड वैल्यू इज़ गोइंग टू रिप्लेस this $43,000 over here. The corrected value of the net profit is going to replace $43,000 here. So whatever your corrected value comes out to be for net profit, it is going to replace the equity section value in the balance sheet. So let's take 2 minutes or 5 minutes and see if our balance sheet balances, right? जल्दी से आप करेंगे. पहले revised income statement बनाएंगे and you will share your correct net profit in the chat, everyone. And then once we confirm the correct value of the net profit in the income statement, then we will move on to the balance sheet and we will balance it quickly, right? Once you calculate the corrected value of the profit, leave your value in the chat box so that we can confirm. मेरे पास answers नहीं है इस वक्त, लेकिन इसका आंसर दिया हुआ at the back. It's the 7th question. Yes, it is the 7th question, right? So odd numbered question, you will have the answer at the back. So confirm your net profit and let me know as well what the correct value of the net profit is. Anyone got the correct net profit yet? Profit for the year, corrected version. $51,640, Alina Sayed's net profit. Please reconfirm the value. Alina, let's wait. Alina का net profit corrected value 51640 आ रहा है. Please confirm. Alina, you can continue with your balance sheet. Let's wait for a few more. Uh, Alina, check the answer at the back. Did your answer come out correctly? Because the answer is given. So let's not wait for reconfirmations because you'll have your answer. Okay, great. Excellent. Alina Sayed checked 51,640 mines reconfirmed. Very good, very good. Carry on, carry on. शाबाश. जल्दी जल्दी हम करते हैं और फिर उसके बाद हम कंट्रोल अकाउंट के MCQs पे आते हैं. बल्कि मैं ऐसा करता हूँ, मैं कंट्रोल अकाउंट के MCQs इंपोर्ट कर लूँ उतनी देर में. चलो, सॉरी, I'll do it. Alicia asked the question in the answer at the back. They haven't added $40 decrease in PFDD before the gross profit. Seriously? Uh-huh. They should. It's an additional income. Uh, yeah, Asma, same. They have subtracted it. That's very strange. Subtracted it from where? Subtracted it from the expenses? Because if that is subtracted from the expenses, then it is obviously treated as an income. Ideally, for a better presentation, incomes should not be subtracted from the expenses, right? Incomes should be shown in the segment reserved for incomes, and expenses should be there. But if an expense is an income, तो फिर वो उन्होंने अपनी स्पेस बचाने के लिए ना एक नेगेटिव एक्सपेंस शो कर दिया होगा. बट एज लॉन्ग एज यू गेट 51,640 as your corrected net profit, you're okay. Are you getting 51,640 as your corrected net profit? All right. But ठीक है. It's all right. Because remember, the printing space is kind of important for book publishing. So usually publishers, they always try to save this. But for you, it should be treated properly. Gross profit या net profit calculate करने के बाद आप incomes add करेंगे profit में. You should not merge incomes and expenses section together. You keep them separate. Okay, let's move on to the balance sheet and let's see if it is balancing. Madiha's balance sheet is balanced. Very good, Madiha. Let's wait. Anyone else got the balance sheet balanced? Leave a green check. Mahin's got it balanced too. Very good, Mahin. Let's wait. Okay, Asma's got it balanced too. Alicia, अच्छा नहीं, वो पुराना question है, ठीक है. Okay, Alina got it balanced. Amal got it balanced. Excellent. Iman Farouk's got it too. Marian got it too. Alicia as well as Alina Wakas. Asma's got it. Iman Badr, are we done? Iman Badr. Okay, great. Excellent. Okay, so this is it. So let me bring the MCQs here. Not this one. Let me bring back MCQs. Not this one. MCQs. MCQs. Control accounts. Control accounts. Import. Okay. Did I share the answers control account MCQs के? आपके साथ मैंने शेयर कर दिए थे आंसर्स कि अभी नहीं किए हुए? Yeah. Not yet. Okay. Actually, the first 11. So let me share the answers first then. चलो मैं जल्दी से फिर आपके आंसर्स पहले शेयर कर दूं. फिर आप अपने आंसर्स देख लें, फिर ताकि गलत आंसर्स के ऊपर हम फर्दर उसको just let me put the answers here. मैंने नहीं शेयर किए. Okay, strange. Not the Google Drive. Upload. Browse. Okay. Answers to MCQs. Control accounts. And topic should be in December. Okay. Let's post. Okay, you have it here on your classwork tab, answers to the MCQs. So let's quickly go through the answers first. Mark yourself wrong answers और फिर हम उनके बाद उनको डिस्कस करते हैं. So you have the answers already. So go through it, and then starting with the first MCQ, let's move in order. Right. So once you have gone through the answers and you have marked your work, then we will start with the problems. Order में जो सबसे पहले आपका problem question होगा, आप मुझे बताएं, फिर we'll discuss that. How long do we have? Okay. चलो, अभी हमारे पास मंडे का दिन भी है, जितने हम आज कर सकें आज कर लेंगे, फिर बाकी हम मंडे को कर लेंगे. डोंट वरी, वी हैव मंडे एज वेल. आई एम नॉट स्टार्टिंग द न्यू चैप्टर ऑन मंडे. And once you have gone through all the answers and you have marked your wrong answers, then leave a green check for me on the participants window. Okay, Alina Vakas has gone through the answers. Alina Sayed as well. And Mehreen too. Amal as well as Asma. Okay, Amna and Iman and Minal and Maheen. Iman Badr as well. Fajar and Hadia are left. Hadia. Okay, take your time. Okay, Hadia as well. So, okay, let's start with the wrong answer. So, what's the first wrong answer? Or any tukka that you have made, and wo bhi theek ho gaya. So, you have your issue. So, which one should we discuss first? Second one. Question number 2. Okay, question number 2 is we are acha haan ye okay, theek hai, haan. The table shows the summarized sales ledger control account at the end of the year. theek hai. So, this is the control account values at the end of the year. How will trade receivable be shown in the balance sheet at the end of the year? So we have amounts owed by the company that actually tells you about your trade receivables. Amounts owed by the company for deposits received. These are the abnormal minority balances, if you remember. So ये advances हैं जो आपके trade receivables ने आपको advance पे pay कर दिया हुआ है. And we know from the IAS1 discussion, slide discussion that we did back then in control accounts, that when it comes to showing something in the balance sheet, we follow the disclosure requirements. So disclosure requirement says कि जो भी आपके एडवांस में अनयूजुअल माइनॉरिटी बैलेंसेस आ जाते हैं कंट्रोल अकाउंट में, वो आपके क्रेडिटर्स में इंक्लूड होंगे, वो आपके ट्रेड रिसीवेबल्स में इंक्लूड नहीं होंगे, राइट? And the third one, so let me just put the tick. This is your trade receivable. This is not your trade receivable, even though ये आपके customers हैं, लेकिन उन्होंने आपको एडवांस में दे दिया हुआ है. Bad debt previously written off, now collected from the liquidator. This is already included in the sales ledger control account. बिकॉज जब आप बैड डेट रिकवरी करते हैं तो आपकी वो कंट्रोल अकाउंट में ऑलरेडी इंक्लूडेड होते हैं, और ये बैलेंस जो आपके पास आ रहा है ये आपके सेल्स लेजर कंट्रोल अकाउंट के क्लोजिंग बैलेंसेस हैं. सो दिस ऑलरेडी रिफ्लेक्ट्स दैट वैल्यू. एंड द फोर्थ वन, पेमेंट टू अ डेट कलेक्टर फॉर अ कस्टमर्स डिसऑनर्ड चेक, दैट हैज़ वो भी आपके कंट्रोल अकाउंट में पहले से इंक्लूडेड होता है. वो वैसे भी आपके एक रेगुलर नॉर्मल एक्सपेंस है, आपको उसका कोई ताल्लुक नहीं. सो द ओनली ऑप्शन लेफ्ट इज दिस 712,500. दिस इज योर करेक्ट आंसर. C is your correct answer for question number 2. Do you agree? Hadia ने क्वेश्चन पूछा था. Hadia, we get it? Amounts owed to the company by others, right, Hadia? Amount owed to the company does not mean we owe it. We owe as in we का मतलब कौन है? We as from the business entity principle. We means the business entity. So amounts owed to us. The company itself is the business entity, right? We don't owe anyone. These are the amounts which were owed to us by others. We get it? These are the amounts which we owe to others. So that is not your trade receivable. That is not what we are going to include here. Okie dokie. Okay, what's next? So question number 2 के बाद अगला 21, then 12, then 24 and 40. So 12, let's go through the 12th question first, then we will move on to 21, right? And then 24. 12th question here. Okay, question number 12. Given the opening trade receivables $10,000 and एक मिनट में एक फ्रेश शीट वर्किंग्स के लिए साथ ले आता हूँ. Okay, so given the opening trade receivables 10,000 and credit sales of 50,000, increase in the provision for doubtful debts, blah blah blah. There are some discounts, dishonored checks, sales returns, and the closing trade receivables would be. So basically, you have to make a control account here, right? Basically, what you are required to do is make a control account, right? Alicia, control account हम बनाएंगे, and we just want to calculate the balance carried down here. The closing trade receivables is this value. The balance brought down is given to us $10,000. That's your sales ledger control account, right? Okay. The sales on credit is going to be on the debit side, $50,000. The increase in the provision for doubtful debts is not going to be considered. PFDD has nothing to do with control accounts. Provision for doubtful debts is based on the outcome of the control accounts. जब हम control account बनाते हैं तो उसकी जो outcome होती है उसके ऊपर फिर further analysis होता है कि कितने likely हैं. So no connection with the making of the control account. That is something that we do after the control account is done. So we'll ignore the provision for doubtful debts, and the amounts received from trade receivables is receipts. हम यहाँ पे लिख देते हैं. Receipts are $45,000, right? And then you have discount allowed, which is $350 on the credit side. Dishonored checks are going to be on the debit side, $100, and sales returns are going to be on the credit side, $400, and that is it. And now we balance this account to find our closing balance. So whatever the answer is, आप इसका कैरी डाउन बैलेंस कैलकुलेट करके देखो और फिर देखो आपका आंसर सही आ रहा है. $14,350. Okay, great. So most likely आपने provision for doubtful debts include कर ली होगी अपने analysis में. That's why you got it wrong. Probably that must have been the case. Okay, great. The next one in line is 21st. So 21st is here. Let me make it bigger. A trade payable for 270 transferred from the purchase ledger has been entered on the wrong side of the sales ledger control account. Basically, a contra settlement की बात हो रही है. So 21st किसने पूछा था? Alina ने. अच्छा, Alina, this was a contra settlement. So contra settlement was placed on the wrong side of the control account. The sales ledger control account has a closing balance of this much before corrections, and a provision for doubtful debts is this much. What is the correct balance of the sales ledger control account? Okay. Remember, provision for doubtful debts has nothing to do with the control account. Okay. So all we have to do is fix the control account.
Sir,
Sorry. G, Alina.
sir, कुछ questions के अंदर the closing balance is considered as a balance carried down, but in some questions it's considered as the balance closing balance brought down. तो वो credit और debit side की गलती हो
Confusion हो
जाती है.
जाती है. Okay, ठीक है. Okay, remember the closing balance is always the balance carried down, right? The balance carried down itself becomes the balance brought down in the next analysis period. So wherever this confusion is, you always take closing balance as balance carried down. So मतलब जैसे this carried down balance over here is the closing balance, and it will become the opening balance in the next analysis period. जो भी आपने next analysis के लिए जो आपने reopen करने account, so you're going to bring it down over here. So one next analysis period could be the next financial period, or it could be for correction purposes. जब आपने errors को correct करना था तो उस वक्त भी आप अपने control account को reopen करते हैं for an amended control account. So maybe that confusion comes from there because we don't really go to the next financial period. We remain in the same financial period, but we reopen the control accounts for corrections only. So that could be a reason why this confusion arises. But remember, closing balance is always the balance carried down, right? That closing balance may become the opening balance or the brought down balance depending on the circumstances. And that will always happen on the other side. But as far as the closing balances are concerned, they will always be balance carried down. जिस जगह पे आपको confusion हो रही है ना, जिस question में भी आपको ये, तो next class में जब आप आओ ना तो वो उसका कोई screenshot या उसका एक तस्वीर लेके मुझे उस पे WhatsApp पे भेज देना. I'll try to rectify that over there. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
नो प्रॉब्लम. सो अभी हम आगे चलते हैं. अभी 21st वाला कर रहे थे हम, राइट? हाँ, 21st वाला एरर, राइट? So we need to fix the control account. Sorry, कहाँ गया 21st? Yeah. So $720 का ये आपका कंट्रोल अकाउंट है. सो कंट्रोल अकाउंट में से इसको सब्ट्रैक्ट होना चाहिए था. आपने उसको रॉन्ग साइड पे लिख दिया. इसका मतलब है आपने सब्ट्रैक्ट करने के बजाय उल्टा ऐड कर दिया. सो अब आपने इस 92,460 में से 2 बार उसको सब्ट्रैक्ट करना है. 720 सब्ट्रैक्ट होगा एंड फिर 720 दोबारा सब्ट्रैक्ट होगा, राइट? So that is how the rectification will happen. Remember, provision for doubtful debts has nothing to do with anything. Provision for doubtful debts does not come into analysis when you make the control accounts. So it's only the $720 contra settlement that needs to be adjusted against 92,460. And since wrong side पे डालने का मतलब क्या है? Contra settlement आपके sales ledger control account में credit side पे होनी चाहिए, which means it should decrease the control account balance. बट आपने उसको रॉन्ग साइड पे लिखने का मतलब उसको डेबिट साइड पे लिख दिया. दैट मीन्स इंस्टेड ऑफ सब्ट्रैक्टिंग इट आपने उसको उल्टा ऐड कर दिया, राइट? अगर नहीं, लेट मी जस्ट शो. अगर ये नहीं समझ आ रहा मैं यहाँ पे करता हूँ. सो बेसिकली वट एवर योर sales ledger control account was, right? You were supposed to put the contra settlement here, but यहाँ पे control account का balance, sales ledger control account का balance goes down, right? But instead, mistakenly, you put that here. That was the wrong entry, which means you mistakenly increased your sales ledger control account. So now, you have to do this. You have to do this. You have to decrease it twice. So 92460 minus 720 minus 720, that is your answer. What is the answer here? Oops. Screen disabled.
So I couldn't see any working, but the answer is answer B.
Let me, वो मेरा actually screen sharing device stuck हो गया हुआ है. Just a second, मैं दोबारा उसको लोड कर रहा हूँ. आंसर आ गया आपका ठीक इससे. 90 जो भी उसका फिगर था उसमें 720 दो बार सब्ट्रैक्ट करेंगे हम, राइट?
Yes, sir. I subtracted 720 once, so I got C.
बिल्कुल ठीक है. But we understand why we subtract it twice.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, let me just get it back. Okay. Screen, start broadcast. Okay. Okay, Hadia says 22nd as well. And 21st के बाद 22nd. फिर 24th. Okay. अच्छा, 24th and then 30th. Okay, ठीक है. 21st के बाद 22nd. 22nd question is the correct balance on purchases ledger control account is $63,000 and it has been entered in the trial balance as $36,000. The difference in the trial balance has been entered in the suspense account, although इसमें हमें करने की ज़रूरत नहीं, but now we can do this, right? Because मैंने पहले मेरा ख्याल में आपको मना कर दिया था कि जहाँ जहाँ suspense account involve हो रहा है वो आप छोड़ सकते हैं MCQs. But now we have completed suspense account. It's a listing error. You can see $63,000 correct value थी और control account में कोई गलती नहीं है. It was the only mistake we made was we listed it wrongly in the trial balance as $36,000. So all these options are wrong. Sorry, not these A and D are wrong because listing error के अंदर purchases ledger control account involve नहीं हो सकता because यहाँ पर involve हुआ है तो ये भी गलत option है और यहाँ पे involve हुआ है तो ये भी गलत option है. So A and D are wrong. So what do you think the correct option should be? फिर से मैं स्टक हो गया. अच्छा अभी आ जाएगा. मैं बहुत ये ओके. So neither A nor D. These are not the two correct answers. So internet connection is unstable. Sorry. So do you agree that A and D cannot be the answers because it's a listing error? Listing error के अंदर double entry based जो record है, you cannot involve it in the rectification because it's already correct. You can't further correct it. So yes or no? Hadia? Who asked? Hadia asked. Yes, Hadia, we understand? Now we know listing errors कैसे हम rectify करते हैं. So A और D के अंदर आपको answer नहीं है. तो answer could be Just it could be either B or C. So how do we know? हमेशा लिस्टिंग एरर को डील करने का सबसे आसान तरीका ये होता है कि आप उसको एज लिस्टिंग एरर कंसिडर ही ना करें. कंसिडर इट एज इफ इट्स अ नॉर्मल एरर. So in this case, the purchases ledger control account has been understated. तो अंडरस्टेटमेंट का मतलब है एक आपकी लाइबिलिटी जो है वो अंडरस्टेट हो गई है बाय हाउ मच $27,000, राइट. सो डेबिट सस्पेंस अकाउंट. अगर ये नॉर्मल एरर होता, लिस्टिंग एरर ना होता, so would you agree that this should have been the correct entry? Rectification entry should have been this. अगर ये normal error होता, listing error ना होता. But now since this is a listing error, so we will exclude the double entry account in this and leave the suspense account only. So the answer is debit suspense account and no credit. So the answer is C. Here you go. This is the answer. Suspense account debit with nothing on the credit side. This is the correct answer. Agreed? Excellent. Okay, what next is
Excuse me, sir.
yes, Alina? Yes, Alina.
Um, Sir, जो closing balance what I told you about, I
हाँ
faced
हाँ.
that problem in question MCQ 17.
MCQ 17. Okay, पहले हम MCQ 17 पे चलते हैं. So MCQ 17, the closing balance. Oh, अच्छा अच्छा, ठीक है. The closing balance on purchase ledger control account is this much. The purchases daybook journal has been undercast by $1,000. What should the correct closing balance on the purchases ledger control account, right? So basically आपने okay, मैं समझ गया आपकी confusion क्या हो रही है. So अगर आपको याद हो जब हम control account correct करते हैं तो क्या होता है? पहले आप original control account, this is the original control account, right? This is the original purchase ledger control account. So this is the original purchases ledger control account. You make the original purchase ledger control account, you put the entries here, and then you calculate this balance carried down here, right? This balance carried down is 163,762. बहुत छोटा हो गया, थोड़ा सा बड़ा कर लूँ मैं. 163,762, right? That is the error. फिर हम क्या करते हैं? फिर हम अगले analysis period, remember that analysis period, right? So we make the amended one. We reopen the control account for amendments. So amended purchases ledger control account, that is where you have this confusion. So this closing balance will be temporarily reopened here. So that is why this is going to become the balance brought down. But remember, this is just a temporary thing just for the correction of errors, right? So the closing balance is always going to be the carried down balance. It depends on the circumstances that you need to reopen this closing balance for correction or not. Like in this case, you do. So that is how you bring down. This was the original one and this is the amended one, right? We need to differentiate between them. You understand, Alina?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So अब हम इसको अब आगे आपका ठीक हो गया. Purchases day book was what undercast. So undercast था तो फिर वो purchases undercast जो हैं वो यहाँ पर आ जाएंगी 1,000 से, and your answer would be whatever. अब ये इसका closing balance बन गया amended purchases ledger control account का closing balance बन गया. So the answer would be 163,762 plus 1,000. The answer is this C here. We agree? Right. Okay. Great, great. Okay. The next one is अच्छा चलो हम एक और कर लेते हैं. मेरे पास अभी 12:40 पे क्लास शुरू होगी, सो हम एक और कर लेते हैं, फिर उसके बाद हम बाकी के मंडे वाले दिन कर लेंगे. ओके. सो व्हाट वाज द नेक्स्ट इन लाइन? 22 तक हम पहुंच गए थे. जी बेटे. ईमान बदल गया. यस यस ईमान, प्लीज प्लीज. हाँ हाँ, ठीक है ठीक है. हाँ चलो फिर हम ऐसा करते हैं कि ईमान के साथ फिर अगले क्वेश्चंस कर लेंगे. हम 23rd तक, हम 22nd तक हम कर चुके हैं. तो अगले वाले 23rd एंड ऑनवर्ड्स पे वी विल डू इट ऑन मंडे. ठीक है. आई हैव माई क्लास स्टार्टिंग, सो आई हैव टू सेट अप द रिकॉर्डिंग फॉर द नेक्स्ट क्लास एज वेल. उन्होंने भी रिक्वेस्ट किया हुआ रिकॉर्डिंग के लिए. ठीक है. सो on Monday, 23rd and onwards. I'll see you there. Bye bye. Khuda Hafiz. Thank you, bete.